Part 99. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 983. In fact, Zhang Zizai was more considerate at first and hid better. However, when the focus was on the Holy Dragon body, people like Guyeokan were forgotten for a short time. Writing this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. They were also focused on the stone tablet, and they shouldn't have been able to spot Zhang Zizai and the others. This can all be seen, it's just a bit of bad luck, and sometimes it's just luck. The brothers around Guyeokan must have known about her for a long time, but they didn't go directly to come forward when they encountered the stone tablet because it was too important. I never expected that you all came to my door yourself, saving me a lot of effort. Guyeokan crossed her arms and held up the fullness on her chest, with a sneer on her face, like an iceberg. She was indeed a little surprised, and she was still holding her breath. Now I'm afraid I just want to laugh. The brothers in her tribe have surrounded Zhang Zizai and the others. Now everyone is praising Baimu for getting the battle secret, and no one cares about what is happening here. Zhang Zizai's joyful mood just got the holy dragon body, but this guy caused trouble. Now the trouble is not just the trouble, but Guyeokan wants his brother's life. This is the world of the dragon totem ancient god, Lu Dingxing, and the others are here. Survival is indeed a little more difficult. It's just a dragon servant who has just been so cruel to our Qin tribe people. He really lacks discipline. To be so arrogant is obviously more stubborn. In this case, don't blame us for being rude. What tribe are you from? One of them asked Zhang Zizai just to be safe, because he seemed to have no impression of this person at all. No need to ask, no matter what tribe they belong to, they are not qualified to do this to Qiner. If this naughty person is taught a lesson, the two dragon servants will at least be crippled. One of them was the oldest. He was not prepared to take action. 2 or 3 other people were enough to deal with 3 young men. I'll do it. 2 of them took action and directly suppressed them. Their realm was higher than that of Guyeokan. They should be at the 7th level of the ancient god realm. This was a realm close to the divine king. It was not the same concept as Zhang Zizai and the others who had just become gods. When their ancient divine power was displayed, it was even difficult to move. This was undoubtedly a wake-up call, especially Lu Dingxing and Xuanhuan, who were directly in danger of death. Those 2 people directly attacked them. As for Zhang Zizai, they would take care of it later. When they took action, there was indeed a lot of noise. After all, if they wanted to bring a life and death crisis to Zhang Zizai and the others, they would definitely have to use some means. They are all ancient gods with dragon totems of the light system. When fighting, the bright light shines, and the power of the ancient gods is suppressed, making them very difficult to deal with. It seems that the light is drowning them, but in fact it is equivalent to falling into a quagmire. This may be the power of one of the totems, which directly makes it difficult for them to even escape. The dragon sacrifice god realm is indeed a place where there are countless powerful people. In the god realm, even the Lord of Yanjai Star would not dare to kill them, but here, a high-level ancient god has the power of life and death. Zhang Zizai's eyes were filled with enthusiasm, and his mind was running rapidly, thinking about how to survive this disaster. He thought of many ways, but he didn't expect that a person suddenly appeared and came to them in a blink of an eye. That white light was truly bright. The moment he took action, Zhang Zizai's pressure on them dissipated instantly and disappeared suddenly. At this time, that being was already standing in front of him, blocking the way between them and Guyeokan and his party. Zhang Zizai only glanced at the background and knew who he was. Bright Dragon City, Baimu. He didn't expect that Baimu would protect him. What kind of plot is this? Baimu, Guyeokan and his brothers in the clan looked at him in disbelief. When Baimu came here, the eyes of hundreds of people around him also shifted to this place at the same time. Brothers and sisters from the Qin tribe, Bai Mu would like to say hello to you all, the young man said politely. Gu Yaoken said depressedly, what do you mean? These three people seized the dragon spring of light that I discovered, and they teamed up to injure me, especially the two dragon servants, who almost killed me. The mere dragon servants were so bold. My brothers are just standing up for me to teach them a lesson. Why do you stop us? These three people have nothing to do with you, right? Bai Mu frowned slightly and asked, Sister Gu, as far as I know, you are at the 5th level of the ancient god realm. Can you and the others defeat you together? How do I remember that the Sanrio realm is only the 2nd level of the ancient god realm? Or so. They came to Guangming Dragon Tomb after being tested by me. They are the 2nd level. Are they the 2nd level? You may have been deceived, Gu Yaoken said. Bai Mu smiled, he knew what he knew, and said, but this is not the key. In fact, I think Sister Gu's kindness is not too great. In fact, I admire the three of them quite a lot. I don't know if Sister Gu can do it now. I just want to save my face. Why don't I care about them? Zhang Zizai really didn't expect that he would protect her like this. If this happened, no matter whether the matter was successful or not, she would still owe him a favor. Are you serious? Gu Yaoken said in shock. She looked at Zhang Zizai and the others blankly, completely wondering what kind of capital these three people had to allow people like Bai Mu to talk to her like this for them. She knew after a little thought that if she continued at this time, Bai Mu would lose face. This young man was not someone she could afford to offend. So even though she couldn't figure it out at all, when Bai Mu spoke, her elder brother in the clan said directly, since you are defending us, we won't care. But we have to teach them more to prevent them from being arrogant and offending people everywhere. I understand, Bai Mu smiled. Goodbye. With Bai Mu coming out, they quickly decided not to pursue him anymore. Even though Gu Yaoken was still a little unwilling, she still let him go. After all, she had no other choice. Who are these three people? I don't know. They obviously offended the people of the Qin tribe. It's really strange that Bai Mu still speaks for them. Are they also from Guangming Dragon City? Maybe they are descendants of some top existences. After all, they can even bring in dragon servants. They are obviously not simple. People whispered and were very curious about this matter. Now that Gu Yaoken and the others have left, someone asked, Bai Mu, can you introduce these three? Are they disciples of Guangming Dragon City? How come I have never seen them before? Bai Mu smiled and asked Zhang Zizai, do you mind your identity? Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 984. Zhang Zizai certainly didn't mind. This kind of identity would be known to everyone sooner or later. Coming from the god's domain was a mark on him. For example, when he went to the god's domain, the mark was a person from the totem world. But what does it matter? When he rose in the god's domain, no one cared where he came from. People only cared about who he was. After getting Zhang Zizai's permission, Bai Mu said, these three were brought to the god's domain by the dragon god king from his god's domain. They are all very talented. They should be trained by the dragon god king himself. I tested them a few days ago. The talents are indeed very good and have great potential in the future. God's domain, this was really unexpected. People originally thought that Zhang Zizai and the others would be protected by him. They might be descendants of a top god king in Bright Dragon City. They didn't think about the direction of the god's domain at all. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. Who from the divine realm has the talent to enter the tomb of the light dragon? Bai Mu personally tested him, so he must have passed. He is not fair. Didn't Gu Yaoken just get defeated by them? She must have some advantages. After all, the dragon god king is the god king with the highest talent in the divine realm. According to his strength, he can be ranked in the top 3 among all the god kings in the divine realm, and he is much younger than the other top 3. He can be compared with Baimu's father, the Glory God King. These three people are probably about the same age as Baimu. At this age, they must be at least the fifth level of the ancient god realm to be considered the top talents of our Light Dragon clan. In terms of realm and talent, they are still a long way behind. They are not considered talents, but for the divine realm, they are indeed amazingly excellent. I have heard that there are almost no people who have become gods at this age in the divine realm. When everyone was talking, Zhang Zizai had already thanked Baimu. No matter what, he owed him a favor this time. Zhang Zizai, it's been more than a month. How do you feel about being in the Light Dragon tomb? Baimu smiled. A place of worship of the holy, incredible, Zhang Zizai said. The word worship of the holy is well used. What are your plans for the future? Why don't you go with me? Baimu smiled. He actually invited Zhang Zizai to travel with him, which surprised people again. You know, I don't know how many people dream of traveling with Baimu. First, it can bring closer care, and second, traveling with him will definitely gain more. Zhang Zizai came from the divine realm. If we really talk about his status, he can be the lowest in the field. People really can't figure out what is so good about him that makes Baimu give him face like this. However, Zhang Zizai smiled and said, where brother Baimu can go, we may not be able to go. We do want to go with you, but we will definitely hold you back and make your actions troublesome. In fact, this Light Dragon tomb is also important to you, so the three of us should just wander around here casually. If we delay you, we will feel bad. To be honest, it is really inconvenient to follow him in this state. The other party might just be polite. Baimu's words can actually enhance Zhang Zizai's status. This will make other people who want to target Zhang Zizai think twice. After all, they have to give Baimu some face. This is his care for themselves, and it can be regarded as a favor. Sure enough, he didn't insist, but said, it doesn't matter. You are unfamiliar with the place. Just pay attention to safety. He gained a lot from the battle this time, and he seemed to be in a very good mood. Now the stone tablet has disappeared, and many people have begun to leave. Seeing this, Zhang Zizai thanked Baimu again for his life-saving grace just now. He also said goodbye to the other party. Baimu still had many partners from Guangming Dragon City who were calling, so they separated. Here is a white light, and there are bright lights everywhere. If you walk a few more steps, you can basically not see other people. Boss, why is Baimu so good to us? Xuanhuan asked curiously. Not sure, appreciation. He has a certain understanding of our trump cards, maybe optimistic about us. So he won us over a little, maybe we can work for him in the future. This is the explanation that Zhang Zizai can find at present. This person is a good person and has a good reputation. He is a man of courage and righteousness, Xuanhuan said. Not bad, Lu Dingxing felt. There is no need to care too much about him. Anyway, we can't go all the way now. After all, he has a high status and strength. We can just go our own way in the Bright Dragon tomb, Zhang Zizai said. Baimu got the battle tactics this time, and the harvest was huge, which was enviable, but in fact Zhang Zizai was even better in the Holy Dragon body. The two of them got what they wanted. After leaving the War God King's stone tablet, Zhang Zizai began to ponder the Holy Dragon body. The War God King was a man with a very strong sense of mission. He passed down the Holy Dragon body for Li Xian's later generations to understand, and even added a lot of annotations to each point. The creator explained it personally. This effect is really too comprehensive. Zhang Zizai is outstanding in his own endowment, has a superb comprehension ability, and has a huge advantage in one soul. For him, the Holy Dragon body is actually not difficult to understand. As long as the conditions are sufficient, it is actually very fast to practice, and it is even simpler than many ordinary body refining techniques. The method of cultivating the holy dragon body is, in short, called tribulation cultivation. The meaning of tribulation cultivation is easy to understand. When becoming a god, mortals rely on divine tribulations to forge divine bodies and divine souls. This is a kind of tribulation cultivation. It means cultivating in tribulations. The tribulation of becoming a god is a tribulation cultivation that every ancient god must go through, but after cultivation, there is basically no more tribulation cultivation. The cleverness of the war god king lies in that he created a practice method that continued the physical tribulation in the divine tribulation, and constantly strengthened the physical body with different divine tribulations. Zhang Zizai had originally experienced the 9 extreme divine tribulations, so he could better understand that the correct tribulation cultivation could make his divine body stronger. Even with cultivation, the effect would be much better. This is not a gentle way of refining the body, but a rough way that forms a certain torture on oneself. The practitioner is equivalent to constantly re-experiencing the physical tribulation, and it is a stronger tribulation than the ordinary physical tribulation, so as to strengthen the physical body. Of course, after becoming a god, there will be no divine tribulation, but you have to find the divine tribulation yourself. In the divine domain and the mortal world, divine tribulations are unlikely to appear casually, but in the sacrifice dragon divine domain, the so-called divine tribulation is actually the gathering of earth power born in the divine domain. The fire in the divine domain is the divine fire, and the divine fire is a kind of divine tribulation. In the divine domain, the annihilation thunder tribulation that Xuanhuan once experienced is actually the annihilation thunder. Annihilation thunder is common in the divine domain, and there is a distinction between strong and weak. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 985. In addition, in the land of God's domain, various storms, torrents, frosts and other powers are born, which can be regarded as divine tribulations. There are some rare earth powers that can even pose a threat to the gods and kings, and the top existences they often use these powers to forge magical weapons. The cultivation condition of the Holy Dragon Land is to find these divine tribulations that exist in the God's domain. After finding them, you need to take the initiative to bear the divine tribulations that others want to hide. It is said that there are many more divine tribulations in the bright dragon tomb than outside. After all, this is a place where no one comes and goes all year round, but it is also a place where the power of the earth gathers. It is very easy to create the top gods with divine energy. The tribulation will pose a certain test to the disciples who come in. Therefore, during their next trip, they would occasionally pay attention to whether there was a divine calamity in the bright dragon tomb. For a period of time in this bright dragon tomb, Zhang Zizai saw the dragon tomb several times, but without exception, he was basically unable to get close. No matter how long you walk, you will never get close. Dragon tomb is a sacred place, and it is not something that these generations can get close to. However, Zhang Zizai found that the closer to the dragon tomb, the more likely there was good fortune, such as the stone tablet last time. Near the dragon tomb, the dragon springs of light will also be relatively dense. Often at this time, Zhang Zizai will let Lingxian come out of the evolutionary world to absorb it. Although it is a treasure for forging the body, it has a great effect on Lingxian. At this time, when Zhang Zizai passed by a dragon tomb, he suddenly noticed that there was something violent outside the space in front of him. After they got closer, they carefully stared at the white clouds emitting white light. The white clouds were very dense at this location, and there seemed to be something in the white clouds. It was moving around and I thought it was a snake unless I looked carefully. The white clouds moved very fast, almost sweeping past the area. There was no sound nearby. Zhang Zizai took a closer look and found that the white cloud was extraordinary. The so-called clouds are actually not real clouds. Only when you look carefully do you realize that they are actually composed of dense white lightning. Lightning can form clouds that cover half of the sky, so you know how much white lightning there is. This is a divine catastrophe that almost everyone will avoid when encountering it. This is one of the tests of the bright dragon tomb. Normal people have it. Hide as far as you can, which is why there is no one nearby. Xuanhuan thunder and lightning. Zhang Zizai took one look and roughly knew. This kind of light, cloud, and thunder can also appear in the god's domain, but it is relatively rare. Once it takes shape, it will definitely cause an annihilation strike. You must know that there are many mortals in the god's realm. If such light, cloud, and lightning sweep across the mortal dynasty, it will be possible. Caused millions of deaths. The scary thing is that this kind of light, cloud, and thunder sometimes chases the creatures it encounters. It is probably because the creatures have the characteristics of attracting light, cloud, and thunder. As soon as Zhang Zizai found out that it was light, cloud, and thunder, the light, cloud, and thunder started to rain down. Shen, coming towards them. The power of light, cloud, thunder, and lightning can be much stronger than tears, but it will not become a divine calamity when one becomes a god. And looking at the quantity, the amount of light, cloud, thunder, and lightning in front of him is simply greater than Zhang Zizai's original 9 extremes divine tribulation. Although there is only a single one, it is definitely a killing that is comparable to the 9 extremes divine tribulation. The power, especially if Zhang Zizai chose to resist and absorb it all, would be almost equivalent to experiencing the 9 extremes divine tribulation again. Are you sure you want to go up? Xuanhuan looked a little scared. I have passed through the 9 extreme divine tribulations, and I am much stronger now than I was then. As long as the level is the same, I will definitely be able to achieve it. Zhang Zizai was very thoughtful. Others were actually a little awe of the holy dragon body cultivation method, but he was not someone who was afraid of hardship. Especially after experiencing the 9 extremes divine tribulation, he is no longer afraid of the same level of calamity. In fact, there was no time to react at all. Zhang Zizai rushed forward, like a black light rushing into the center of the snow-white and vast clouds of light and thunder. I'm afraid Xuanhuan Liden has never seen him come to die. Zhang Zizai definitely cannot use the Demon Lord Cauldron now, and he will not have any protection. He is purely resisting with his physical body to withstand the tearing and electric shock of the light, cloud, thunder, and lightning, which is terrifying. Then, while enduring this calamity, continue to forge the physical body in the calamity cultivation method. After coming in, Zhang Zizai realized that he had underestimated the power of light, clouds, and thunder. Sure enough, the light, clouds, and thunder in God's domain were different from the light, clouds, and thunder here. The power of this light, clouds, and thunder was more than twice as powerful as he had imagined. It is equivalent to twice the power of the Jiji divine tribulation. Fortunately, there is no soul calamity now, it is purely physical training, so even if he is promoted, Zhang Zizai can forcefully hold on at the first moment, withstand the next moment, and after not being torn apart by the light, cloud, thunder, and lightning, he start operating the holy dragon body technique, and start strengthening and forging the physical body during the calamity cultivation. The light, cloud, and lightning were like sharp swords, tearing apart his flesh and blood, and kept drilling into it. For a time, they tore thousands of holes in Zhang Zizai's body. All the light, cloud, and lightning gathered together. From the state of the clouds, a huge white thunder sphere formed, and Zhang Zizai's current location is in the center of this white thunder sphere. Countless clouds of light and lightning kept drilling into the body, extremely violent, tearing crazily, and penetrated into Zhang Zizai's internal organs, tearing and roaring continuously. At the beginning, this terrifying lethality was simply overwhelming. The lethality of twice the 9 extreme divine tribulation, plus the complete inability to resist, was simply reaching the limit. For a moment, he completely lost his mind. Fortunately, his soul was strong. After the soul held up, he could hold on, operate the holy dragon body, and fully exert the essence of the holy dragon body. Once Zhang Zizai held up the first wave, then he could enter his rhythm. Once the rhythm of the holy dragon body was turned on, it was Zhang Zizai's crazy moment. The strongest link of the holy dragon body was different from the ordinary divine tribulation forging divine body, because the holy dragon body could absorb the power of the light cloud lightning and directly transfer its power to the flesh and blood, allowing the flesh and blood to fuse the light cloud lightning, so that his whole body directly became a storage body of the light cloud lightning, which was equivalent to swallowing all the light cloud lightning. The divine body that merged these light cloud lightning was the holy dragon body. Of course, if only one link was successful, it should be the holy dragon thunder body. Lu Dingxing and Xuanhuan could only stare blankly from below, they were completely unable to help. However, from their slightly shocked eyes, they could see the terrifying power of the light cloud and lightning. The white sphere on it was like a nightmare, constantly twisting and rolling, constantly turning, and the electric snakes on it were madly moving, like a group of wild beasts eating. But in fact, if they were careful, they should be able to find that what was actually reduced was the light cloud and lightning itself. Even if the current reduction is very weak, it is actually clear that everything is moving in a direction that is beneficial to Zhang Zizai. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 986. Next, it is a matter of persistence. If you can't hold on, you may be engulfed by the light cloud and lightning, and your divine body may be torn apart. One of the reasons why the holy dragon body was lost is because of its great danger. In history, many people who failed to cultivate the holy dragon body were directly wiped out, which is also a loss for the holy dragon clan. And once you hold on, the lethality is absolutely amazing. As time passed, Lu Dingxing and the others finally paid attention. The light cloud and lightning became less and less, and the amplitude became more and more, until the speed was almost visible to the naked eye. In the end, it was obvious that many white lightnings wanted to escape, but they could no longer escape. In the center of the lightning and thunder, it had become the core of the new light cloud and lightning. Finally, at a certain moment, all the light cloud and lightning had dissipated, and instead, there was a boy with white lightning wrapped all over his body, and even his eyelashes were full of electric wires. At the same time, there was thunder in his eyes, and even when he opened his mouth slightly, there were violent white electric wires inside. With every move, lightning surged, and in the blink of an eye, thunder was violent. The holy dragon thunder body has been formed. Zhang Zizai's flesh and blood now seemed to be made up of white light clouds and lightning. However, the white color did not last long in front of his eyes. In the next moment, all the white lightning changed rapidly, as if it was dyed, and immediately turned completely black. A white lightning man immediately became black. At this time, there was no trace of the original light cloud and lightning. This was a completely dark, destructive, violent, and ferocious existence. The electric wires in the eyelashes were filled with black electric wires, and in the eyes, there was a black lightning ball. With a glance, the electric wires surged. Terrible Lu Dingxing's physical body is very strong. He specially cultivates the primordial chaos demon god body, which, combined with his ancient demon god bloodline, can be fearless of anyone in terms of physical body. He has only cultivated the first level divine body, but now looking at Zhang Zizai's holy dragon body, he can fully feel that Zhang Zizai's current pure physical power is even stronger than him. It may not be as heavy and powerful, but it is absolutely terrible in terms of explosive power and lethality. It's done. Zhang Zizai landed in front of them. His temperament was completely different. Both his temperament and eyes were much sharper than before. Did you absorb so many light clouds and lightning? Xuanhuan asked. Yes. How does it feel? Lu Dingxing asked. Try it, come on. Zhang Zizai also wanted to know how strong his divine body was. He stretched out his hand and purely wrestled with Lu Dingxing, who was a monster in terms of divine body. The two put their hands together, fighting purely with physical strength. For a while, the two stood still, but in fact, their hands were full of blue veins. When they exerted force, the dragon scales on Zhang Zizai's hands emerged, and black lightning surged on them, while Lu Dingxing's arms became thicker, and tacit understanding surged on them. After a while, there was no winner. Awesome Lu Dingxing admired sincerely, because he knew that this was his strongest point. If Zhang Zizai caught up with him, then he could definitely crush him in other aspects, such as totems, magic weapons, etc. You two are getting more and more terrifying, Xuanhuan envied. You are not bad either, Zhang Zizai smiled. He knew that this guy was actually very powerful, but he just didn't show it. He was holding the Wang Chuan sword, and there was nothing he couldn't chop. The three of them were now like the rising sun, full of vitality, and what they lacked was time to develop. Brothers, join hands to sprint forward, fight side by side, is their wish at the moment. After dealing with the light cloud, thunder and lightning, they continue to school. According to the light dragon tomb, the number of various divine tribulations is much greater than outside, and the holy dragon body art can eventually be cultivated to the 9th level. If I can practice all of them before leaving, then the divine body may be stronger than the divine source. The combat power of the ancient gods can now be classified into 4 categories: divine source, totem, divine body, and divine soul. Among them, only the divine source is related to the realm, so sometimes, the realm may not be high, but if the totem, divine body, and divine soul are all terrible, it can actually cross the realm and defeat many opponents. Zhang Zizai now has almost no weaknesses. He is the top existence in totems, divine bodies, and divine souls. The Light Dragon Tomb is a great opportunity for him to practice. They continue to start their journey, and Lingxian will occasionally accompany them. A few days later, Zhang Zizai found another Light Dragon spring, and no one has touched it. Now, more than half of the Light Dragon springs encountered have actually been absorbed by people. He is now cultivating the Holy Dragon body, so he doesn't need it anymore. So this time, Lingxian is still the one who will go up. Before the divine tribulation, she will continue to strengthen her body, which can actually help her survive the divine tribulation. For example, her current body is much stronger than Zhang Zizai's before he survived the 9 extreme divine tribulation, and is almost comparable to an ordinary divine body. Lingxian was in the dragon spring of light, and the three of them sat on the side and chatted. Suddenly, she let out a slight exclamation. After she got into trouble last time, Zhang Zizai was quite nervous about her, so he appeared beside her directly. Seeing her just come out of the water, her wet long skirt stuck to her body, showing her perfect figure, and her wet long hair stuck to her face, she suddenly had a kind of sexual happiness that made people feel moved. And the look she dodged when being stared at by Zhang Zizai, like a deer, had an indescribable flavor. "What's wrong?" Zhang Zizai asked. "There seems to be something below," Lingxian pointed lightly. Below. Zhang Zizai had seen many light dragon springs, and the land below was basically ordinary. This spring water did not come out from the ground. What did it mean that there seemed to be something below her? "I'll go down and take a look," Zhang Zizai asked. Yeah, Lingxian nodded slightly. Zhang Zizai jumped down, splashing water, and she dodged for a while. "Haha," Zhang Zizai pinched her cheek and said, "We've known each other for so long, but you're still shy with me." "Who's, no Ying," she said with her head down. "She is just like this, and this is also her beauty." Zhang Zizai naturally doesn't want to change her. He dived into the water and looked down, and found that the ground below the Light Dragon spring was actually a totem array. It was a blood-colored totem array, which happened to be round and filled the bottom. He confirmed that other Light Dragon springs definitely did not have such a bottom. Zhang Zizai leaned over and touched it with his hand. The touch was similar to the ordinary bottom. It was impossible for him to understand this complex totem array, so he floated up, let Lingxian go out first, and then said to Suqianyu, "It is a bit strange, you come and try to chop it directly with the Wangchuan sword to see if you can chop it open." Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 987. There is a detail problem with this totem array. That is, when Lingxian left the Dragon Spring of Light and Suqianyu entered, the bloody totem array disappeared. Out of curiosity, Zhang Zizai first let Suqianyu come out, and then let Longyan go in. He was shocked to find that the bloody totem array appeared again. This totem array appeared because of your relationship. Maybe others who find this Dragon Spring of Light may not be able to detect this totem array, Zhang Zizai said. How to do it? She asked. Keep chopping and give it a try, Zhang Zizai said to Suqianyu, and then he and Longyan exited. Princess Lingxian was her title in Yanlong. In fact, Zhang Zizai had almost forgotten it. In his eyes, she had always been Yan'er, while Shenxiao was Yan'er. Good. Suqianyu sank down, holding the God King level Wangchuan sword in both hands. After Zhang Zizai and the others withdrew, he used all his strength to pierce downwards. A sword hit the center of the totem array, and he remembered it just now. Logically speaking, there were actually very few things in the Guangming Dragon Tomb that the Wangchuan sword could not penetrate, but this time Suqianyu was knocked out, and the stone slab underneath was unscathed. Not even a trace was left. Boss, although the totem array has disappeared, it is actually protecting the stone slab. The Wangchuan sword may not be able to split it, Suqianyu said. Try again. He tried a few more times, but it was still the same, which was equivalent to having no effect at all. Zhang Zizai had a headache. He suddenly saw that Longyan was still there. He suddenly had an idea and said, "You go down too." Okay, she calmed down a little as she was told. Sure enough, just when she entered the Dragon Spring of Light, the bloody totem array appeared. Suqianyu was below. After seeing the blood totem array, his eyes lit up slightly, and then he heard Zhang Zizai, "Try it now." Good. This time, he used all the ancient divine power in his body to pierce the sword and stab it directly. The sharp tip of the Wangchuan sword was never damaged. The position he chose was in the center of the totem array. The totem before when the formation disappears, it is difficult to find the most accurate position in the center. There is a certain deviation in the previous few swords. This sword is in the center of the blood totem array. The Forgotten River sword hits the core. This time when the sword tip collides with the totem array, it makes a crisp sound, a click, the bottom explodes, and the surrounding dragon springs of light fall directly. Go, Suqianyu and Longyan were also swept down. Zhang Zizai followed naturally. Before going down, he said to Lu Dingxing, "Keep an eye outside. Someone calls me if there is anything." Good. There must be something down here. It would be better to have someone outside to look out, and Lu Dingxing is proficient in all kinds of magic skills. He can definitely use some skills to cover up the entrance of the Dragon Spring of Light, because the Dragon Spring of Light has now disappeared, and the dazzling the light is gone, and this place is just like a cave entrance. This bright dragon tomb is so magical and contains all kinds of interesting creations. Zhang Zizai has reason to believe that there are some treasures here. After all, the hiding place is quite deep. Longyan's existence should be the reason for opening the underground palace in front of him. Otherwise, even with the Wangchuan sword, it would be impossible to reach the underground palace in front of him. The three of them are now standing in front of a simple underground palace. The underground palace in front of them is not big. The door is closed, but it is actually ajar. There are no windows except the door, so there is only a burst of bloody red light shining through it. Of course, Zhang Zizai was the most daring. When he came to this underground palace, he only used the Demon Lord Cauldron to protect himself, then directly pushed open the ajar door and walked in. After the door opened, he had the illusion that he had entered another world. In this world in front of you, there is only one thing in front of you, and that is an endless ocean. This ocean is not made up of sea water, but made up of blood. This is an endless sea of blood, with surging waves that never end. I don't know how vast it is, and I don't know how deep it is. The majestic breath is endless, suppressing it, bringing unimaginable oppression to people. This seems to be the blood of endless creatures, and there are corpses of endless creatures in the blood. The bloody smell of killing is simply a feast of death. But Zhang Zizai knew that this was just a narrow underground palace. The first thing he saw before was a pool in front of him. The water was full of blood. That blood pool was the endless sea of blood he saw in front of him. What exactly is this blood pool? Boss, I know what it is. Xuanhuan's eyes looked strange against the blood. He was more studious when he was at Wangchuan Sword Tomb, so his knowledge was broader than Zhang Zizai's. What? It seems to be the source of evolution. Longyan's blood-colored eyes contrasted with the endless sea of blood, as if they had merged into one. Yes, it is a god-level evolutionary source, called the ancient blood hell. It is very ancient. It is a hell composed of the blood of all things. It is the very top type among the god-level evolutionary sources. This evolutionary source can create in the domain of the ancient blood prison. The user absorbs blood and has a constant flow of combat power, while the opponent is suppressed by the blood prison and has difficulty moving. At the same time, his own blood will be assimilated at any time. Over time, the flesh and blood will dissolve. Being completely mixed in the blood prison is almost the most terrifying source of domain evolution. Xuanhuan knew very well. I didn't expect to encounter the source of evolution in this bright dragon tomb. In the sacrifice dragon divine domain, the god-level evolution source is not too rare, but the ancient blood prison, infinite space-time, and Dao judgment are still quite rare, and there are almost no such sources in the world. There is actually a big gap between the top god-level evolution source and the ordinary god-level evolution source. For the ancient gods, if there is no god-level evolution source, there is almost no possibility of becoming a god-level. Regarding the power and terror of this ancient blood prison, Zhang Zizai can feel it without Xuanhuan's excessive description. He is now like being in this ancient blood prison, which is a hell of blood, endless, without end, no future, nothing, only death. Zhang Zizai finally knew why the totem formation appeared for Longyan, because it was this evolution source that was calling her, or, it was the ancestors who placed this evolution source here who chose her. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 988. It is conceivable that if she had a better evolution source, it would be easier for her to get closer to the path of becoming a god. Her current realm is not the saint body realm of the martial life realm. It is almost impossible to improve her realm by evolving the totem, especially when she is stuck in the gap of becoming a god. I have never heard of anyone becoming a god by evolving the totem in the 9th level of the initial god realm. However, for Longyan, the ancient blood prison in front of her is crucial to her future growth. So Zhang Zizai pushed Longyan without saying anything and said to her, "This is a fortune tailor-made for you, hurry up." Yeah, she also knew that she was the one chosen by this evolution source. This ancient blood prison was of no use to Zhang Zizai and them, so she went up, and Zhang Zizai and Xuanhuan withdrew from here. "Boss, I'll go up too," Xuanhuan said. He went up to watch the wind with Lu Dingxing. There was only a blood pool in this underground palace, and there was nothing else. There was no other value in exploring. It was enough to leave Zhang Zizai here to pay a little attention. There was no danger in the evolution of the totem, only success and failure. Zhang Zizai estimated that the possibility of Long Yan failing this time was very low. He sat on the threshold of the underground palace, leaning his head against the door, looking at the girl's back. She was already sitting cross-legged on the ground, and the blood sea in the blood pool in front of her gathered into a long snake, and took the initiative to drill into her forehead. This is the Bright Dragon clan. There is no suitable successor to this ancient blood prison in the Bright Dragon clan, so this evolution source is estimated to have been around for a long time. It's not easy to find a suitable person, so naturally, we will do our best to help her evolve successfully. So I am very relieved about this evolution. If she succeeds in evolving this time, maybe she will really have a chance to become a god in this Bright Dragon tomb. To be honest, Zhang Zizai knew how difficult it was to become a god. Lu Dingxing and Xuanhuan were also not easy. They also spent a lot of time in the adversity of the sect before they finally succeeded. In the underground palace, blood light surged, and her back was shrouded in blood light. Soon the blood mist condensed into a blood cocoon, protecting her in the middle like a newborn baby. This evolution process was very slow. Zhang Zizai enjoyed the rare peace to protect the girl. However, the peace lasted only for a moment. Soon, the blood cocoon had a feeling of explosion. A terrifying killing aura swept around, and the blood mist began to spread. Zhang Zizai was blown away before he could react. When he stood up, the blood wave that people dared not touch swept over, and at the same time, there was a killing aura that made people's scalps numb. In fact, Zhang Zizai was not very suitable for the inheritance of the god of killing. It should be that Long Yan was the most suitable person for the inheritance of the god of killing. He let this blood wave rush out of Lin Palace directly and crashed out of the hole of the dragon spring of light. At the same time, there was also a blood mist. Lu Dingxing and Xuanhuan were both stunned for a moment and hurriedly followed. How is it? Nothing. I just don't know what's going on with her. Zhang Zizai stabilized his body and looked at the blood mist still gushing out from the cave in front of him. To be honest, the evolution was too loud, and in this snow-white world, the color of the blood mist was particularly bright. Now the blood mist was spreading, and even at this moment, the ground was still shaking. There was a terrifying atmosphere around, which made people's backs cold, as if an ancient terrifying beast was awakening at the position under their feet. What's wrong with her? Xuanhuan was a little confused. Normally, it would be difficult for a totem evolution and a mortal to cause such a movement. Bloodline, Lu Dingxing narrowed his eyes and hit the key point. What he meant was that this was an explosion of power in Longyan's bloodline. He now had the bloodline of the ancient demon god, so he was very clear about the power of this bloodline. He obtained the inheritance of the ancient demon tomb by relying on the blood of the ancient demon god. These two are his capital. Longyan and Shen Xiao only have one of his two capitals, and they are not as good as him. But now it seems that Longyan can cultivate to this level by relying on his own blood. In addition, there is such an explosion today, which means that his blood power should be quite good. While they were talking, the ground under their feet moved more loudly. The ground of the Bright Dragon tomb was shaking. It should be relatively rare. This is likely to attract other people, but after all, she is in the process of totem evolution, and Zhang Zizai can only wait and see. But the change of things is beyond his expectations. When the ground vibration intensified, it suddenly exploded. For a time, it exploded directly from bottom to top. Endless blood waves rolled up, just like a blood-colored hell covering Zhang Zizai and them. In this blood-colored hell, a girl with dark red eyes appeared from it. Her black hair was strangely flying in the sea of blood. Her skin changed at this time and turned into blood-colored dragon scales with blood flowing on it. It has to be said that her aura is very amazing now. Zhang Zizai has the infinite space-time holy dragon totem. At this time, there is a feeling of fear, as if she has turned into an ancient blood infernal dragon. From the blood-colored dragon like an emperor at the center of her eyebrows, it can be seen that she has completed the evolution of the totem at this time, and the totem has evolved to the level of the God Lord. At present, it should be the ancient blood infernal dragon totem. Compared with Zhang Zizai's gradual move towards the high gamble infinite space-time, her fierce and violent totem brings a hideous breath of death, and feels like a brutal thug. Such a totem appears on the delicate and moving, quiet and forgivable Long Yan, which is indeed a very big contrast. However, it would not make people feel strange, because she is usually quiet and introverted, but sometimes when she offends to the limit, when the blood-colored dragon scales cover her face, she actually becomes irritable and is exactly the same as this totem. That's how the Prince Long Yun was killed by her. Just talking about the power of the totem, Zhang Zizai felt an illusion, as if she was almost as hungry as he was. He was a little surprised, because he found that he seemed to be looking at her a little. Yan'er, Zhang Zizai saw that she was still in a violent state, and couldn't help asking her. It can be seen that her totem should have evolved successfully. Since it has evolved successfully, she must leave quickly. After all, she is still immortal, and she made so much noise just now. If she doesn't leave, it will be bad for others to find out that a mortal has come in. Brother Zizai. Her eyes full of death finally saw Zhang Zizai. In fact, her dark red eyes were still very pure at this time. What's wrong? Uncomfortable, Zhang Zizai asked hurriedly. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 989. Maybe she herself didn't understand what was going on with her, so she was a little confused, but at this moment, Zhang Zizai felt the earth-shaking changes in her body. Her aura was changing. Changing from the source of killing to the source of killing gods. Zhang Zizai was stunned for a moment, and then he directly felt that the power in her body was madly increasing, and the quality was rapidly improving. Zhang Zizai had seen this situation in Suyuexi, and he also felt it in himself. This is a process of the source power transforming into the source power of the ancient gods. Her source power of killing is transforming into the source power of the killing ancient gods. When all the transformations are successful, it is a sign of becoming a god. At this time, endless divine spirits are gathering towards her body. No way, becoming a god is so easy. Totem evolution can succeed. Zhang Zizai was a little amused. He remembered that he and Lu Dingxing had spent a lot of effort to become gods, and they all had sudden enlightenment and breakthroughs in absolute crisis. And Long Yan's current situation is that it is obvious that she has reached the level of the ancient gods because of the totem evolution, which seems too easy. Since ancient times, this method of becoming a god has never been heard of. However, Zhang Zizai probably thinks that it may be related to Ji Yingying's becoming a god. If there are other possibilities, perhaps her inner purity is also a reason. Although she seems to know nothing, she actually knows everything. She is more clear about her own path of cultivation. When Zhang Zizai was surprised, her ancient god source power had already transformed successfully. Although her becoming a god came much faster than Zhang Zizai imagined, Zhang Zizai was definitely not jealous. This could be just what she wanted. If she could become a god, it would be much more convenient to move in this bright dragon tomb. Now Zhang Zizai's only worry is that the process of the divine tribulation would not attract other people's attention. Of course, her safety must be the most important. When the divine tribulation comes, Zhang Zizai can only do his best to let her pass the tribulation with peace of mind. Becoming a god is easy, but she can't be too lucky, because it is very likely that she has suffered from Ji Yingying's suffering to have such a harvest. It can only be regarded as a blessing in disguise. She should have been a lucky girl. After the transformation of the ancient god's source power is successful, the divine tribulation will soon come. She is afraid that she is a rare person who has passed the tribulation in the light dragon tomb. Fortunately, the light dragon tomb is full of light, which actually has a certain concealing effect. If you are far away, You can only hear the sound in the strong light, but you can't see the specific situation here. The divine tribulation has come. When he saw the dark clouds gathering, Zhang Zizai stood there in a daze. He really didn't know whether he should be happy or depressed. At least at this moment, his worries in his heart were unprecedented. Lu Dingxing and Xuanhuan also looked at each other, looked at Zhang Zizai, and then looked at Long Yan, shaking their heads and saying nothing. The reason they were like this was because her divine tribulation was related to Zhang Zizai. What's depressing now is that Long Yan's divine tribulation is extremely dangerous. There is no way to be happy now. If she can pass the tribulation successfully, she may be happy. Because this is the 9 extreme divine tribulation that Zhang Zizai has never thought of. And the one soul tribulation that once made him tremble. These two most terrifying disasters, which are rare in the dragon sacrifice divine domain and can cause the potential of God, actually fell on Long Yan. From the scale of the 9 colored clouds and the familiar breath of the one soul disaster, it can be known. These two disasters are so terrifying to a mortal that it is hard to describe. These two divine disasters rarely come, but once they come, the mortality rate is still very high. Throughout history, many top talents have died in the 9 polar divine disaster and the one soul disaster. Zhang Zizai didn't know what she was thinking. Her will should be quite strong at this time. In fact, she is really not afraid of death, so at this time, she is even more fearless. For her, after experiencing the disaster in front of her may not be a big deal. She is death itself. Death, what is there to be afraid of? So she just entered the disaster cloud. What can we do to help? Xuanhuan looked a little headache. His divine disaster was very strong at the beginning, but compared with the 9 polar divine disaster and the one soul disaster, it was still a little worse. Zhang Zizai shook his head. Actually, they couldn't do anything. The only thing they could do was wait. Try not to let other people interfere. In fact, he was very nervous. He knew very well how difficult it was to deal with these two kinds of divine tribulations mixed together. But it was useless to be nervous. He could only wait. One soul tribulation was invisible. I'm afraid she had already entered her soul world at this time. I wonder if her soul world would experience the same journey as Zhang Zizai's. As for the 9 extreme divine tribulations, 9 different types of tribulations had all come at this time, bombarding her body. The blood mist on her body still existed, obscuring some of her vision. It could be vaguely seen that the thunder, fire, storm, ice, and other tribulations were frantically bombarding her body. Zhang Zizai had never felt the 9 extreme divine tribulations at that time, and his body was completely destroyed. Now that he saw it with his own eyes, he knew how thrilling it was at that time. This could be a moment of passing the day like a year. The only fortunate thing is that it seems that no one has discovered this place yet, so Long Yan will not be disturbed. I don't know how her soul tribulation is going. From the outside, all you can see is the bombardment of the 9 extreme divine tribulation, and her frail body seems to be shattered at any time in this tribulation. But in fact, Zhang Zizai sometimes underestimated her tenacity. Some people look very fragile, but when she is tough, resists, and explodes, she is not weak at all. Her spiritual power is even magnificent and vast, eternal and endless. What is waiting is torture. Watching her cross the tribulation is also a kind of torture. When you care about someone, sometimes it is like this. He is like an ant on a hot pot now. He has no idea what will happen to her and whether she will die. He can only feel that the power of the 9 extreme divine tribulation is getting stronger and stronger. From his point of view, Long Yan has almost been swallowed up by the 9 extreme divine tribulation. She is completely dying, which is equivalent to making the last struggle. Maybe there is a problem with her soul tribulation, which leads to a comprehensive collapse. Now she has almost touched the edge of death. If it is not reversed, she may not be able to hold on. After all, these two tribulations are far from over. Her head is about to tear apart, but there is no way. The divine tribulation is always a matter of mercy. Even the God King can't help. The divine tribulation is a forging process. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 990. Yan'er. There was a fire in Zhang Zizai's throat, but he couldn't shout. We have been together for a long time, and sometimes I still feel sorry for her and want to protect her and not let her suffer anymore. She has never made any demands on herself. At this moment, he wanted to bear it on her behalf, but this was all a luxury. Now he could only believe that she could survive this disaster. If she could succeed, she would definitely have a bright future. With top bloodline and divine potential, his qualifications should be no worse than Zhang Zizai's. Of course, Zhang Zizai's totem is definitely more mysterious. However, watching her breath getting weaker and weaker, it seemed that her fate of death was irreversible. Zhang Zizai gritted his teeth, the roots of which were trembling, his fists were clenched, and his palms were covered with sweat. Is she going to die? A soul catastrophe, can't you get out? At this confusing moment, suddenly, a dragon roar erupted above the head. In the blood mist and dark clouds, a sudden change occurred. The bloody figure suddenly expanded and turned into a bloody divine dragon coiled on the ground. The bloody divine dragon was not big, even smaller than Zhang Zizai's dragon form, but it was a very ferocious and violent divine dragon, with infinite blood on its body. Its ferocious blood thorns, dragon tail, dragon teeth, and dragon claws were all its weapons. This is definitely a dragon born for killing, a killing machine, and synonymous with death. When she transformed into a dragon, the energy and blood in her body were extremely strong. Beside it, those nine-pole divine tribulations suddenly seemed not to count. What happened? Zhang Zizai and the others had just transformed into a dragon, so they also knew what transforming into a dragon meant. It's just unimaginable that when they still needed guidance from others, Long Yan took the initiative to transform into a dragon at this time. She didn't guide her at all, but she knew that the totem was herself. The evolution of the totem is your own evolution. This is the ancient blood prison dragon. She is hovering in the catastrophe. Now her blood is majestic. The power of her bloodline seems to have experienced an awakening and completely exploded. Her eyes have regained consciousness. This shows that the soul tribulation has expired. I have successfully possessed a soul tribulation. Under such circumstances, the 9 extremes divine tribulation is nothing to her. She has experienced more terrible things, and now she is getting better. She must have succeeded. And it can be clearly seen that she is completely different from before. Now, after becoming a god, she seems to have undergone a huge transformation. This transformation is like the evolution of blood. The 9 extremes divine tribulation is already in its final stage. Her 9 extremes divine tribulation has taken shape, and now it is just the final stage. In a moment, from despair to dawn, it can make people burst into tears. Fortunately, Zhang Zizai didn't do this, otherwise he would be embarrassed. It's just that this feeling of being able to survive is so comfortable. He couldn't help but laugh. Sure enough, she was really someone who wouldn't disappoint. Maybe even Shen Xiao here might not be as tough as her. In a short time, the calamity clouds dissipated, and the new ancient god had arrived. It was hard to imagine that she was still in the state of a divine dragon. This alone made people know that she was not necessarily the same as other dragon totem owners, at least Zhang Zizai cannot transform into a dragon for such a long time. After everything dissipated, her dragon body finally shrank. When Zhang Zizai went up, the girl in front of him reappeared. She was still messy in the wind, with long hair flying, and a pair of dark red eyes. Tears flashed. In fact, she was still scared. Even if she became a god, she felt a little helpless at this time. Zhang Zizai smiled faintly, opened his hands gently, and Long Yan took the initiative to enter his arms. Of course Zhang Zizai just hugged her gently and said in her ear, "You have done very well. Now is the time to be happy, so you can't cry anymore." I know she sobbed slightly, pursed her lips, and wiped some tears from the corners of her eyes. When she looked up at Zhang Zizai, she was still slightly choked. "It's like a dream. Seeing if you were dead, I wouldn't want to live. If I hadn't thought about it in the end, you wouldn't be the type to admit defeat, and I wouldn't have survived." Her one-soul catastrophe turned out to be all about herself, but Zhang Zizai's one-soul catastrophe involved many people, and the main character was not her. Zhang Zizai had always known her thoughts, and perhaps there had been an indissoluble bond with her since the death of Prince Long Yun. However, she is not the one who wants to compete with the 9 immortals, and she may not be used to possession. She feels very comfortable if they can see each other occasionally. If they get along day and night, there are only 2 of them, even if it is not her wish. This kind of relationship is like that between gentlemen, but sometimes, she still needs Zhang Zizai's embrace. Zhang Zizai patted her back gently and said, "It's all over. It's time to come out of it. Looking back, your current state will definitely have a better future. There will always be a day. You can do whatever you want, you have all the freedom to do what you want." Really? She was a little confused, and sometimes she really didn't know what she longed for. For example, Zhang Ziguo, who cultivated to the extreme, might be able to bring her parents back. That once gave her the courage to live, but after becoming a god, she understood that this was an impossible extravagance, and the death of a mortal was as light as a feather. "Be happy, come on, how are you doing now?" Zhang Zizai felt depressed when he saw that she had become a god. He lowered his hand and slapped her buttocks. There was a crisp sound, which scared her like a frightened white rabbit. She trembled, and the next moment, she looked at Zhang Zizai with such resentful eyes, showing infinite charm, which made Zhang Zizai intoxicated. He had no idea that she actually had such a seductive side. Lu Dingxing and Suqinyu can only dig out their eyes and stay away to avoid accidentally seeing this kind of scene. Long Yan's face was hot, and she could only shrink back before saying, "It seems to be okay. The bloodline power seems to be a lot more and needs to be digested slowly. The divine body, divine source, and divine soul all seem to be quite good. Her current situation must be very good." Compared with Zhang Zizai at that time, the divine body and soul of the 2 were almost the same. In terms of divine source, the killing divine source she obtained at the 9th level was only slightly less powerful than the destructive source. In terms of totems, infinite time and space still has a slight advantage, but not much. However, the talent in her blood broke out, which Zhang Zizai did not possess. In short, in the future, she can reach the level of the 3 of them. Zhang Zizai was naturally happy for her. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 991. From the current point of view, luckily Long Yan finally passed this test and successfully became a god. In fact, after this level was passed, Zhang Zizai felt relieved. After all, the important matter of life and death was over. He was originally worried that someone would appear because they would influence her to become a god. As for those troubles, it would be best if she could avoid them, but if she still attracted other people, then troops would come to cover it up. So even though he knew that someone was witnessing Long Yan's transformation into a god, he was still relatively calm. He turned around, and in the light in front of him, a young man in white walked over. The young man had a delicate face, which was considered extremely handsome. His face was more beautiful than many women. He had a slender body, slender fingers, and slender mouth. There is a faint smile between them, which has quite a good charm. His eyes were now completely focused on Long Yan. Although he was staring, his eyes were full of approval, and there was no uncomfortable lewd look at all. Bloodline of the Supreme Dragon, Zhang Zizai and the others heard the words coming from his mouth. This is absolutely true. When you become a god, you can turn into a totem dragon. According to 9 achievements, you have the blood of the Supreme Dragon. And her aura is so majestic, it has caused a certain suppression on me. This kind of bloodline, only the Supreme Dragon can explain it, the boy in white admired. Zhang Zizai didn't know much about this, but he knew that this was the top bloodline among the Supreme Dragon clan. It should be on the same level as Lu Dingxing's ancient demon god bloodline. They were both very ancient and high-stakes bloodlines. Anyway, he didn't have them. After all, he did not make progress by relying on his bloodline. What is the concept of having the same divine potential as Zhang Zizai, plus the blood of the Supreme Divine Dragon at the same level as Lu Dingxing, gathered in a teenage girl? Zhang Zizai knew that even in the dragon sacrifice domain, Long Yan had a bright future. At least it seemed that she was more dazzling than Zhang Zizai and the others. After all, no one knew that Zhang Zizai had divine potential. No one saw this kind of thing when it was going through the tribulation, and no one believed it when it came out. Long Yan's potential has now been seen by the boy in white, so Zhang Zizai is a little wary. He doesn't know who this person is at all. The other party was very conscious. He smiled and said, "Bai Mu seems to like you very much. I didn't know the reason before. I didn't expect that there is such a talented woman among you. It is really amazing. Bai Mu has really good taste. Introduce yourself. My name is Xuanhuan, and I am also a member of the Guangming Dragon City. My parents and Bai Mu's father are colleagues in the Guangming Dragon Society." In his self-introduction, he introduced his background, and it was not just his father, but his parents were both elders of the Bright Dragon Society. So his status should be the most noble status among the Bright Dragon clan. One of the top descendants of the Guangming Dragon clan, and it seems that he is not too old, probably no more than 20 years old, so he can be considered a member of the Guangming Dragon clan. After Hua Zhonyuan finished, he smiled and asked, "Excuse me, miss, can I be lucky enough to know the girl's name? I wonder who the girl is, and she has such qualifications." He was curious about Long Yan's identity and background, but Zhang Zizai did have a headache in this regard. He can come from the divine realm with everyone, Long Yan and himself, but how to explain this to the Dragon God King? Tell him that he owns a place called the Evolution World? The Dragon God King should not appear. What he wanted to do was to resolve this matter for the time being. It was impossible to kill people and silence them, so he could only hope that this guy would not pay too much attention to their group. Maybe he would forget about it after a long time. Long Yan would not answer him. Zhang Zizai said, "I think you may have misunderstood. She is not of the bloodline of the Supreme Dragon, and she does not have the potential to be a god." The other party was not easy to fool at all. He smiled and said, "You can't think of me as a fool. I was attracted by the 9 extremes divine tribulation. I long to live through the 9 extremes divine tribulation. How could I not understand it better than you? This shows your ignorance. Girl, your friend doesn't seem to appreciate your talent." Zhang Zizai knew that Hua Zhonyuan only paid attention to Long Yan. The 3 of them came from the divine realm, so he didn't bother to pay attention. He may think that he is much more advanced than Zhang Zizai and the others, but Long Yan still stands behind Zhang Zizai, her eyes are on Zhang Zizai. No matter how beautiful the young man in white is, she seems to be nothing. "Brother Hua, we have something to do. Let's take our leave first." Zhang Zizai didn't want to get entangled with him. The more entanglements he had, the more trouble he would get. So he, Lu Dingxing and the others looked at each other, and everyone turned around and left. In this situation, if it weren't for Huazhong, if Yuan had any ideas, it would be inconvenient for him to catch up. Don't leave yet. Yuan came directly in front of them and blocked their way to leave. He smiled hoarsely and said, "You don't have to be wary of me. Baimu and I are also good friends, so I won't bully you. I'm just curious and shocked by this girl's talent and qualifications. I want to know more about it. Maybe I can give this girl some help. The girl provides a better way to practice. You must know that with the girl's qualifications, if the elders know about it, they will definitely be trained as a key point, and the status will be directly improved. Especially my parents, they should be able to make the girl grow up in a short time. You will be greatly improved within this period, and you will definitely have no problem becoming a god king in the future. With your god potential, you may even become a god." He said a long paragraph, and then with a guilty look on his face, he said, "Sorry, I was a little abrupt, but you must understand how amazing your talent is. I have good intentions, but seeing such a talent, I have a mission in my heart. I must let you rise and exert your potential. You must not waste it. We all know about yours, but we are not very familiar with her. No matter how good her talent is, there are people who cultivate her. You don't need to stop us, right?" Zhang Zizai narrowed his eyes and said. "How could you be like this? She is definitely the wealth of our Bright Dragon clan. I just think that she has just become a god, and she is still weak in this dragon tomb, and there are still many dangers in the dragon tomb. You three don't have any ability to protect her, so I naturally have some concerns." "So what?" Zhang Zizai asked with a smile. "Girl, how about letting me protect you? I can let you get a lot of fortune directly in this bright dragon tomb. After you get out, I will report your gift directly. I have recorded the process of your tribulation with image symbols. You can come back to Bright Dragon City with me to meet my parents. I think the entire Bright Dragon Association, including Bright Dragon Lord, will be very interested in training you well. And these three friends from the Divine Realm, they can't get rid of the Bright Dragon Association. My parents are the elders of the Bright Dragon Association." Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 992. Xuanhuan was actually very confident when he was doing this. He was confident in his appearance, strength, and status, which looked much better than Zhang Zizai and the other three. And in his words, he made enough promises to Long Yan, and many people may be moved. After all, who wouldn't want to become a super talent of the Bright Dragon clan overnight? Xuanhuan didn't understand at all what kind of person she was. He knew so much and was only boring to her. She gently pulled Zhang Zizai's arm, without making eye contact with Xuanhuan, and said, "Please leave. I won't go with you. I'm not interested in anything about you either." Her eviction order was very decisive. Xuanhuan was obviously a little unhappy. He was silent for a while and then asked, "Girl, is this person secretly coercing you? If so, you just need to tell me and I can rescue you. To be honest, you are destined to sooner or later, there will be an infinite gap between those who are prosperous and prosperous. Being with them will only lower your horizons. Letting your talents go to waste and doing nothing is simply a waste of money." At this point, Zhang Zizai was also a little impatient. He said, "Can you stop being so exaggerated with your imagination? To be honest, no matter what we do, it's our own business. You go your way, and we go our own way. No matter how talented she is, we can just contact Baimu, and we don't need you. Can we trust you if you have a good relationship with him? Don't think too much, we are just on the safe side. Why don't you bother us?" At this time, he just used Baimu as a shield. In fact, regardless of the fact that Xuanhuan sounds so nice, you can hear that he despises Zhang Zizai and the three of them in his heart. He thinks that Long Yan should break away from them because of his talent, otherwise it will be like being tainted. And does he have any other ideas, such as cultivating a relationship with Longyan before recommending her, are actually not difficult to see. That's why he tried every means. Otherwise, if he was really worried about something happening to such a gifted girl, he could just follow her the whole time without taking her away. Sure enough, when Zhang Zizai came out of Beimu, this guy was a little angry and couldn't control himself. He said, "You are a bit disrespectful to me when you say this. You know, she was a mortal before, and it is impossible for a mortal to be allowed to. If you enter the tomb of the bright dragon, you bring a mortal in without permission. This is also a serious crime. It can range from being imprisoned for more than 100 years to being beheaded on the spot. If this girl hadn't been so gifted, you would definitely have done it. One idea. If you let me defend her and make up reasons for her, you can survive this disaster. Otherwise, if others see it, you will be finished. Brother Hua won't leak it anyway, right? You are such an upright gentleman, you will definitely not do such a human thing," Zhang Zizai said. He knew that the other party meant a threat. Hua Zhongyuan saw that Longyan seemed to be completely submissive to Zhang Zizai, which gave him a very bad fortune. If there was any relationship between such a treasure-like girl and a country bumpkin like Zhang Zizai in his eyes, it would be a waste to him. But Longyan's way of following him like a woman made it clear that this connection was invisible. Actually, the bright dragon tomb is so huge, it will be difficult for you to find Baimu again. Girl, you have no identity, and following them will only hurt them. I can protect you, and you will soon become the focus of millions of people's attention. Don't you really think about it? Your talent is so good that you should have a better destiny. Some people are destined to become passers-by because they are in different worlds. You will understand this truth, Hua Zhonyuandeo. This person's words are sarcastic, which is really annoying. Zhang Zizai sneered. He didn't have a very good temper. Since the other party had evil intentions, such a person would never give up. Blindly giving in would only make him think that he could suppress him. In this case, there seemed to be no need to be polite. He stretched out his hand, gently hugged Longyan's slender waist, let her lean into his arms, and then said to Hua Zhonyuan, "Brother Hua, don't say that, our love is stronger than gold, it won't happen." I was shaken by your sweet words. We have experienced life and death, and seen all kinds of storms over the years. For us, there are some things that are more important than your temptations. Unfortunately, you don't seem to understand. Longyan made Zhang Zizai a little confused. Of course she knew that the other party must have some plot against her. Zhang Zizai was trying to make him give up. It was almost impossible for him to leave obediently after provoking such a person. Trouble has already come, and it is obvious that he cannot just give in. Zhang Zizai is not a person who is afraid of trouble, and neither is she. She didn't do anything, she just held his arm and leaned against him gently. The hostile look on her face towards Hua Zhonyuan made it clear that she seemed to be a girl who was inexperienced in the world. In fact, she knew it very well. In fact, she is very similar to Suyuexi, except that Suyuexi will come out boldly, but she will not. She may never speak out her words for the rest of her life, but her heart will never change. Especially after leaving the Evernight Star Sea. Their unceremonious counterattack made Hua Zhongyuan's face completely darken. "Brother Hua, we all know what you are thinking, so you really don't need too much, it's meaningless," Xuanhuan said. He is a straight-tempered person and dislikes beating around the bush, so he will not shut up when encountering injustice. Who are you? You have the right to speak like a dragon servant. Hua Zhongyuan's aura suddenly became cold and stern, and he looked at Xuanhuan coldly. Everyone here has something to say. Unless you can tear my mouth apart. At least my words are not as sinister as yours. They are just trying to rob, so there is no need to make myself great, Xuanhuan said disdainfully. He couldn't stand it anyway. You are looking for death. I killed a dragon attendant in the bright dragon tomb, but no one would care, Xuanhuan said in a low voice. Xuanhuan sneered. He didn't want to think too much. After thinking about it for a moment, he seemed to have gotten Zhang Zizai into trouble because of his quick words. However, he couldn't help but spit on the ground. His contemptuous look directly penetrated Huazhongyuan's eyes.